Welcome to the Three Chords and Some Lies podcast with me, Andy.
And me, Jim. How you doing?
I'm all right, apart from some toothache, but we all get aches, so there we go. Move on.
Yeah, a bit of a week. I've been savagely cold ridden all week as well, so I've got a bit of a cough. So, but yeah,
yes. So you do sound a little rough. So we apologise for any dodgy sounds that you may hear on this podcast. It was not recorded in front of a live studio audience.
No, a small dog, a little bit rough. So terrible dad joke. Okay, so this week, so. First of all, we'd like to offer our condolences to our good friend Tim, who regularly listens to us, who sadly lost his mum this week. We're thinking of you, mate, and this episode is dedicated to you.
Absolutely.
We are going to have an open conversation about who we believe is the most important and influential guitarist. Not necessarily our favourite ones, but again, as always, we haven't discussed with each other who we're going to talk about.
Haven't. I have no idea. I don't even know who I'm going to choose yet.
No, so, okay. In that case, I better go. But before we crack on, I'm going to just introduce a new weapon to the arsenal, which is I got from a really lovely guy by the name of Denny, who I deal with occasionally up in Grimsby of all places, and he wanted that Fano that you hate. So I agreed to trade it with him, and so it's gone.
Good on him. Thank you for removing it from my life, Danny.
Yeah, so I love that thing. It's a blooming great guitar. So he got a really good deal, so he was happy, and I got a really good deal because I've been looking and coveting this thing for a while. What it is, it's a Cower Guitars Arcturus.
I've never heard of that.
It's kind of his take. Doug Cower, he's an American luthier. It's his take on a cross between a Strat and a Jazzmaster.
Yeah.
But it's got some very, very, very cool parts on it. So it's got the Mastery Bridge, which is the upgrade of all Jazzmaster thingies. Okay. It's also got the Lola wide range humbuckers, which are really amazingly clear. It's got a beautiful, if you can see that, bang my microphone, a flame maple neck, which is stunning. Nice. And it's also got which amused me from a Blackadder perspective, a Wenge fretboard. So with the Wenge,
your Wenge,
yeah. And it's a Wenge fretboard, which is a really, really nice sort of. I don't know. It's a really hard. It's got beautiful piece of wood. So and it sounds fantastic. So I've been enjoying and playing that this week. I also picked up a G&L Assat with the change, which again we'll do a whole section on where Leo Fender went after Fender at some point for another podcast. But there we go.
Well, anyway, that sounds good fun.
I will dive straight in. So I know that Andy is going to disagree with me on this one.
Yes, I'll fight you for it.
I have, but again, it's going to be it's a friendly disagreement as always because it's all a matter of opinion. My opinion on who is the most and greatest influential guitarist is of no surprise to anyone. It's James Marshall Hendricks, and my reasons for saying this, well, they are wide and varied. So I will start out with the fact that he arrived on the UK scene because obviously he started off playing in the US. He was in the army, and then he played with the I'll get it right. He played with the Everly Brothers, the Isley Brothers, not the Everly Brothers. I get those two of them mixed up because I didn't realise they were two separate people till this morning, but that's my own mistake. And he really, for me, launched electric guitar into the UK in a huge way. He sort of changed the way things were. I mean, he came over, I think it was 1967 he came over to it might be 66, 67 that he came over to the UK.
Is that after the famous Woodstock thing?
That's a very, very good question. I don't know. I think it was all kind of about the same sort of time. Now,
it must have been after that, surely.
I think that he came to the UK, got famous, then went back and did Woodstock. And then because he died in 1970, so he was only famous for a really, really short period of time.
Yes.
So I know that Chaz Chandler, who was the bass player from the Animals, discovered him in New York and decided that he should definitely come with him to the UK. So he brought him over to the UK and he set him up with a band. Oddly enough, an ex-girlfriend and still friend of mine's dad, who sadly left us now, was one of the people that auditioned to play bass. And it turned out that he met him, sat in a room with him. He was off touring with his band in Germany. They were called Madison, and it turned out that Noel Redding got the gig because he'd been playing bass for slightly longer than Brian had, which was sad for Brian. But he did say, I remember one of the first times I met him, a huge imposing guy, and he was playing beautiful jazz bass when I met him. He just sat in his chair playing away, and he said to me, He said, "Oh yeah, I know you like the guitar." He said, "I sat in the dressing room with Jimi Hendrix once." And I was like, "Well, I can't beat that." But there we go. So anyway, so Noel Redding and Mitch Mitchell, phenomenal drummer, got the job. And as legend has it, which was legend, it's the truth. He asked whether, or it was Chaz Chandler asked whether Jimmy could stand in with the Cream and play a track, and it was, I want to say it was the Killing Floor. I might be wrong. I'm pretty sure it was and he plugged in to Jack Bruce's bass amp, and played, and Eric Clapton was just like, "I'll get my coat." It was just, and it was a real massive moment in guitar and rock and roll history that when Clapton was at the top of his game. Yeah. And then 2 weeks later, when you watch the Cream, Eric Clapton was letting his guitar feedback, was doing all of this business and because he was just so blown away by Jimi Hendrix.
Because reportedly, Clapton said he watched Hendrix and just went, "I'm going to have to go away and sort all this out." Because
exactly. Nothing else was ever going to be the same. But
no.
The other thing, which I'll have my little bit of tuppence worth on this one, is a really, really, really interesting meme that I've seen going around on numerous occasions. There's a great picture of Jimi Hendrix at Woodstock. Now, at Woodstock, Jimi Hendrix was playing a white 1967 Stratocaster. Now,
we covered it in our earlier.
We did indeed, but the interesting point is that 1967 was 2 years after the CBS buyout of Fender. So, and the meme something on the line it was. People at Woodstock seemed to enjoy themselves despite the fact that Jimi Hendrix was playing a post-CBS takeover Stratocaster, which I thought was always... But it turns out most of the stuff that he recorded was on a 62 and 64 Strat, certainly for the first couple of albums. But for me... I mean, he wasn't the reason I picked up the guitar. Again, this is the reason why we're not talking about our favourite guitarist. It was Slash for me, and so he wasn't why. And also, you know what? I love Jimi Hendrix, but I wouldn't call myself a massive fan. I mean, I much prefer Mark Knopfler to watch play. I much prefer Robbie Krieger from The Doors, but. From what he's done and what he did and what he changed, it was, I think it was. He's obviously a very important character.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't. He came up with a couple of good riffs.
Yeah, quite a few. Yeah,
he came up with some good riffs.
Yeah.
His solo work sounded like a deranged man on drugs, which is pretty much what he was. And the solos are just meandering nonsense. I've tried to they don't interest me at all. But the thing that is not the point about Jimi Hendrix. The point about Jimi Hendrix is, and even I will admit, because I don't like the fact that he broke his guitars either, because I remember watching an interview with Keith Richards, and he was like, "I'll never forgive that guy, man." I'll never forgive. And people who smash guitars up, Pete Townsend's another knob who does that.
Not your thing.
Don't destroy guitars and instruments. They're for things of wonder and joy that, don't smash them up. You're an idiot if you do that. It's not cool. It's not big. It's not clever. Grow up. But what Hendrix did is he inspired so many people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Including, Satriani famously. And, I've heard Satch say, if ever I get lost and I don't know what to do, I go back to Hendrix.
Yeah.
And you hear that, all that kind of stuff. And it's cool, and I totally get why you would think that he was up there for an inspirational guitar player.
Yes,
for sure.
It was very much the fact that nothing else had sounded like that before.
Nothing.
Which was another thing with he turning stuff up to 11, letting it feedback, playing the wah wah, getting all that,
and his teeth,
with his teeth and the wall of sound and all that sort of thing, and I think that he definitely ignited something that hadn't been done, and I think that everything changed because of him.
Yes.
But as I say, he was not my favourite guitarist, but I could definitely see. I do love the work of Jimi Hendrix. I mean, but it's the same as a lot of things. I mean, it's a lot of like this whole Manchester thing. I mean, I never loved the Smiths. I never loved the Stone Roses. I never loved Oasis. I mean, I appreciate Oasis and their massive, particularly in the last couple of weeks, and their massiveness and everything, all that kind of stuff. But they never grabbed me. There's so many of these bands that are allegedly or heroes that never really got me. I mean, I'd much rather listen to The Doors or Jason Isbell or whoever. It's all a matter of personal taste and what you love. So
absolutely, it is. It's just such a difficult one.
Yeah,
because it is. It is the personal taste thing. The whole what I was going to talk about was when you talk about who was the greatest guitar player. How do we quantify that?
Yeah.
Is it pure technique? Is it influence?
Yep.
Is it record sales?
Yep. Is it
all of them?
It's a combination. It's a combination. And it's absolutely a matter of what you feel as well.
It is, yeah. And it's kind of largely, it's obviously having the conversation of who's the greatest guitar player is the most stupid and pointless conversation you can ever have.
Of course it is.
Everyone's going to have a different plan.
And it's also one of the most fun you can ever have as well, because you can go on for 50 years and never ever
go on and never come to a conclusion. However, now, as is very, very well known, my favourite guitar player is The Edge, and a lot of people slag him off because he can't play and he relies on effects. But if we're talking about people, and this isn't the guy I would pick, but he's God to me as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I literally worship the ground the guy walks up. But what he did do is he's probably sold more albums than any guitar player ever.
Yeah.
He's won, I mean, U2 have won more Emmys, I think, than any other band. And he changed the way guitars were played.
Yeah, with using the effects
and using its effects and the creativity of doing that completely changed how, and then influenced also a whole generation of guitar players. With whether it's Johnny Butland from Coldplay or God knows who else, who all use the things, and coming up with a pedal and doing something different with it is not that easy, because delays are around, for example. They were just around. They were just a little effect. You do a, and you'll have a great.
Yeah.
But to do what he did with it, which I don't believe anybody else was really doing.
I don't think they did. I was just thinking that. I don't. I mean, there's going to be someone who's going to be shouting, "You're talking nonsense." But I genuinely, I think the same. I can't think of somebody else who's really. Maybe David Gilmour. If you look at same sort of era, and if you listen to Run Like Hell, maybe Run Like Hell, I think is probably the closest to what the Edge does. As far as you got the old, but it's obviously.
Yeah,
but with the delay going at the same time. And I think that's a really interesting comparison. Actually, that's a real. I wonder whether they've had that conversation, whether the Edge and David Gilmour are friends, and whether they've talked about their.
No, I mean they're so.
Yeah.
I can't do that because they're friends. But I mean, I wouldn't say that they're on the same.
No, different. But there's definitely that. I can think that he's the only other person I can think uses delay to the level that the Edge does. But I think the Edge is obviously much more about the melody for the Edge. Gilmour will use it a lot in his solos, but I think Run Like Hell is really the one that he uses it in. I guess a bit in the start of the Wall as well. But
a little bit, but
not to that
really.
extent.
I mean, I know. I mean, Johnny Butland from Coldplay does. I mean, let's not get into the whole "I hate Coldplay"
thing yet.
But I know Johnny Buckland is a big user of delay, and he's come up some great riffs with it. And you have to cite Edge as an influence, and I believe Jimmy Page was a big influence on Edge back when he was young.
Yeah, I think the other thing is that back then, you could only be influenced by what was presented to you. Nowadays, you can go on YouTube and see absolutely anything you like.
Yeah.
So
we're talking what was on the radio.
Yeah. So we're talking about Jimi Hendrix, talking Jimmy Page, and being influencing to even our generation, But the Edge and people like that who's influenced them. Yeah. They only had what was presented to them
on the radio.
Yeah, they couldn't just go in. They couldn't just go into YouTube and go, I want. Play me the 10 most influential guitar solos of all time and take an influence from that. They wouldn't have a clue.
No, he couldn't. I mean, Edge didn't come from a particularly wealthy family. I mean, like his mum bought him his first acoustic guitar for £1 in a flea market in Dublin. And, very humble beginnings, much like myself. Yeah, with a terrible guitar that a cousin had been donated to me with 2 strings on it. And we all start from there. And we go from that to handmade stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
Which is pretty bonkers. So, from that point of view, I think Edge influenced an enormous amount of people. And he's always said, look, I don't come from a fastest gun in the West mentality. No. That's not what I do. My job is to back the band and the singer, and that's my job. It's not my job to sit there soloing endlessly, and it's how interesting is that really? And I'm kind of with him because I just soloing's good up to a point, and then it's kind of
it's about melody and about the song. There's so many people that will fall into that category that I absolutely love. I mean, it's like George Harrison, for example, Paul McCartney. I haven't mentioned these people, but my God, it's just like
some of the licks that were unbelievable.
Absolutely unbelievable. Paul McCartney wrote Blackbird, didn't he?
Yeah.
That's a McCartney. How the bloody hell did you wake up and just go ding, 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 ding?
Yeah.
What? Yeah, it's just.
How did any of them wake up and write anything like this?
Yeah, well, that's why
ridiculous.
I can save you 9.5 hours. That new, I don't know if you watched any of that new Beatles documentary, the Get Back documentary.
I haven't.
Right. There's a bit that you have to watch, and they'll be on YouTube. It's the bit where Macca writes Get Back live, and you're watching him write it, and he's just like, and you can see it layer up. Yeah. And he's just, I've got this idea. Oh, what? And then it just, there's a lot of filler in that film. Yeah, it's Peter Jackson. It's Peter Jackson. And it is a day long. Right. But just Google Paul McCartney writes Get Back and just what that little section, and it's there and it's live and it builds up from nothing. And within 15 minutes, they've got Get Back. And it is something to behold. Anyway, I was going about melodies and guitar players, and I'll return back to the subject a bit.
No, that's fine because it's all part of the talk. And I think people who do that stuff, it's come to me. It's just no one's heard anything I've written. Yeah. And none of it's as good as anyone that's...
Yeah.
But, if you're a creative person, you're a musician, you're a guitar player, and you know your instrument very well, you're going to have ideas and things are going to come out and things are just going to just happen like that. Famously, One from U2, which is voted one of the best lyrics.
Beautiful song.
It's a beautiful song.
Yeah, I'm not the world's...
came by sort of accident almost. I mean, Edge came up with the riff. And then Bono apparently just stepped up to the mic and just sang most of it out of his head on the day. And because they were about to split up, because they were having a bit of a tough time, and Bono just came and they went, "Oh, we've still got it," and it rescued the whole band. So that's the power of a tune.
I was up sat on a hill in Newton Abbot behind my university on the first night, and I was sitting there with an acoustic guitar playing a few songs, and thought I was doing all right. And then my little Scottish friend I'd spent the day with, didn't really know him from Adam. He said, "Oh, I can play," and he picked up this acoustic guitar and he played One. And you could have heard a pin drop. It was absolutely. It's
a very moving song.
Well, I hadn't heard it before because back in the day, again, you don't have a limited access to music. You had to be able to buy what you wanted, and I hadn't bought a U2 album, so I didn't have it. So, yeah, and going back to the combination of phenomenal guitar playing and melodies, and I really hope he may be who you've chosen, but I think the absolute king of marrying melody, songwriting, and guitar playing is Mark Knopfler. The absolute king of it. The way that if you just look at the start of Brothers in Arms, particularly when he does it, is at the Nelson Mandela concert one, when he walks up and he says something, and he says something else that's quite inaudible, then he just goes, wow, no, and it's just like that. It's just the perfect how to make a guitar work with the song.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think
he was very good. I mean, Mark Knopfler, we're obviously huge Mark Knopfler.
Well, always, yes.
I probably wouldn't have spent £3 million on this thing.
Yeah.
So back in the day, it's difficult to argue because I think in terms of the greatest guitar player out of technique, if you're talking technique, it's Guthrie Govan.
Because no one comes
anywhere.
I know nothing about the guy. I've seen him, videos of him, but this is exactly And Toby, okay.
But with Guthrie, I like him. He's a really nice guy. He's now playing with Hans Zimmer from the composer fame and Gladiator and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And which is a bit of a waste of Guthrie's but his technique is so completely and utterly perfect. He's then moved on to fretless guitars because he needs it's insane. And I've watched him play a fretless guitar, which is that's impossible, absolutely impossible. So from that point of view, technique wise, no one can get anywhere near him.
Well, that's interesting.
I respect him, but do I want to listen to endless?
No. Interesting. So,
whereas I will happily listen to Mark Knopfler, doing his solos and songs of swing and Telegraph Road forever, because they are so creative and wonderful to listen to. They're fantastic to play.
What I love about watching him is when he surprises himself, because he does it all the time. when he's playing that one of the Sultans of Swing live famous videos, when he just goes completely almost with a tapping on the and they can see he's just like, wow, I don't know where this is coming from, but it's great. And you can see it's completely improvised, and it's just amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, I think another mention has to go to Satriani, because I love Satch, and he does the fastest gun in the West thing, and he looks cool. He's got his own style, and his songs are wonderfully listened to.
He's got the melody, which is why
he's got the melodies.
I rate him above all of those other so-called shredders.
Yeah, I do.
I can listen to Satriani. Surfing with the Alien is a phenomenal album, and I remember Toby, who is a good friend of ours, will because he's just like that. He introduced me to it. Then Toby learned the whole damn thing, and he would be playing Circles and Midnight and all that. But you can recognise. I mean, I can't name one Steve Vai song. My fact about Steve Vai: his guitar had a little handle on it, and he once played with David Bowie.
Yeah.
Or was it Zappa? I think it might have been Zappa. But that's all I know about Steve Vai. I can't name a song.
I can't, and I really like Steve Vai, and he's a really, really nice guy.
Apparently so, yeah.
And he was the Andertons
had him on the channel, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what a lovely guy. And he was taught, of course, by Joe.
Yeah.
Famously. But again, it's just a lot of notes for the sake of it, which, it doesn't really float my boat.
No.
I mean, a really good example is one of my students. We'd never gone anywhere. He doesn't like solos. He was not really into soloing. And I just sort of said to him, look, I said, you're kind of missing out on a great big pile of guitar that, you could be interested in. And he's never liked, I won't use what his expression is for it, but it's a bit sort of not child friendly. But he's kind of not really into that. So I said, look, I know I'm going to try and, because he was struggling a little bit. And we were going through the motions and trying to help him. And I went, right, what we're going to do is I use the sort of the Richard Branson plan. You expand out of trouble. So give someone who's struggling, what do you give them? You give them not something easy, you give them Satriani.
Okay.
And I said, right, listen to Satriani. This is so far out of his wheelhouse that he just, because he's a metalhead and he's a lovely guy, one of my most loyal guys. And I just think the world of him. And I introduced him to Satriani, and he And I said, look, just listen. I said, yes, Satriani will have a really easy to play intro, and then he'll go nuts. And I said, why don't we just do the easy bits and teach you on that? And he absolutely loved it. And he went out, he found an eBay, he found a Surfing with the Alien album, like a record with a vinyl. Absolutely loved it, played it to death, and totally got it. So, it's good. So from a point of view of just pure guitar play, but because it's got to have tune.
Yeah.
You can't just play notes.
No.
That doesn't make you a good guitar player, in my opinion. You've got to have a melody there. And Satriani is so listened to. You can put his album on, listen to it, and be entertained and think, that's a great tune.
Well, they are. All of them. I mean, Surfing with the Alien, but I mean, I don't know anything other than Surfing with the Alien. I've listened to other, but that's the only one I really know.
Yeah.
And every single track on there is completely different.
Yeah.
It's just always with you is as 80s as it comes. It could have been on the Top Gun soundtrack, but it is absolutely. And when just when you think he's done with it, he drops in that little tapping bit, and it's just it's magic. It's melody. It's not whittling for the sake of whittling. It's not.
No,
I can play. It's not shredding for the sake of shredding.
No, it's not.
And he's a genius.
The solo on the famously difficult Crossing Day, which even he's admitted was tricky to play, which is an amazing tune. It's absolutely amazing tune. I remember a friend of mine, Steph, when he said, "If you've got to listen to this," and he brought me this tape of this Crossing Day, and I was just like, Jesus, that can't be real.
No.
And it was. But there's a big solo in it that's played. I can't even reach it because of my broken little finger. But it's all up here, and it sounds mental when you listen to it. But when you actually study the music of it and the musicality and the structure of which it is, and he plays it whenever he plays the exact notes every time. There is melody to it, which is absolute genius.
Yeah.
To do that, it isn't just It is that, but it's also there is thought and there is reason behind it, and it creates musical tensions that it's total genius. And from that point of view, Satch is right up there. But I mean, just influence, tunes, melodies, sales. I mean, I suppose it's really got to get a mark, hasn't it?
I think it has. I think that that I didn't. If I was going to be absolutely honest with you, I thought you were going to say Satriani. That was who I thought you were going to go for in this instance. I'm glad you've gone with Mark, because I think that I would have to. I've definitely got. Look, I agree on the Satriani thing as well. I think we absolutely covered it. I think that there's something about Satch as a shredder and as a guitarist that makes him not Steve Vai, that makes him stand out. But I think, I think. Well, where do we go with the Mark discussion? I mean, we'll start at the beginning with Sultans of Swing, you know?
Yeah, which came out of punk.
Yeah, absolutely. And which came out, there was a band, the bar that they're talking about was a bar that I've played in called the Paradise Bar in New Cross, which is sadly no longer there. That is the bar from Sultans of Swing that they're in when they're talking. That's absolutely the case.
Oh,
yes,
wow,
it's the Paradise Bar in New Cross. It's in between New Cross and Deptford kind of thing, but it's no longer there.
Yeah, because Mark was living in Deptford at the time.
He was indeed, absolutely. Yeah. So it was. I mean, just listening to that. I mean, it wasn't the first Dire Straits song I heard, because again, I became a Dire Straits fan because of Money for Nothing. Well, oddly, it wasn't. It was Sultans of Swing.
Oh,
I didn't know, because basically I'd heard Sultans of Swing. I'm like, do you know what? The first Dire Straits song I heard was Twisting by the Pool, which is their worst song in my opinion. It's the only Dire Straits song I can say is that's actually probably a bit crap. It's the only one. It's the only look. I love the guy, and he can't put a foot wrong in my eyes. But so Twisting by the Pool,
that was
a bit crap. Yeah, and my uncle Paul, God rest his soul, put it on a compilation tape for me when I was about I'd have been 6 or 7. And it's a
weird sound to hear when you're 6 and 7.
It is, and there was loads of cool stuff. There's Boomtown Ratsy. I'm trying to remember what stuff that he put on it. There was loads of cool stuff that I didn't. Bell Stars. He was a DJ in Guernsey. I don't know where he was a DJ. Probably I want to say the Royal Hotel, but it was certainly in the late 70s, early 80s. But he was a DJ anyway. And I mean, I loved it then, but then I heard Walk of Life on the radio, and it was just like, oh, this is good. I don't know anything about anything, but this is good. And then my dad bought, as everyone did, not on CD because we weren't that rich at the time. He, or subsequently, that's for sure. And we had it on cassette in his car, and I'd heard, and remember, it's car and cassette. So I'd heard The Walk of Life, but I didn't know what it was called. So I assumed that it was called Money for Nothing. I don't know why.
Okay.
I don't know what. And I remember sitting in his car. It was a Metro, it was at the time, and reversing and fast forwarding to try and find this song that I thought was called Money for Nothing. Anyway, Money for Nothing came on, and it wasn't that song, but it was great. And it was like, well, listen to that. I mean, I literally remember the faux walnut dash.
Yeah,
Van Pla or something. I remember like looking at it, and I was probably coming mono through a ratty old speaker, and it was just like, and it was that all of a sudden it was just I've got to listen to this because this is guitar and it's rock and it's brilliant.
And the other sort of story that that's really worth mentioning is at the time when Dire Straits started and before Silence came up, this was an era of punk. This was there was the Sex Pistols, there was all this punk and dirt and grime and the stench of it all that was going on, and that's all very cool. But from hearing from people who were around at the time, who were adults at the time, they were all kind of a bit sick of it and a bit kind of like that. And then this clean sound came over the radio with, I think Paul Gambattini played it first.
I think you're right, absolutely. And then some guy in America, wasn't it? It was some guy in the States as well that absolutely
Sultans of Swing.
Yeah, but he played it like a lot of times. He played. It was just like, I have to play this song until somebody, for God's sake, realizes its brilliance. Yeah. And you've got people in America who, they don't know the Paradise Bar, they don't know what New Cross is, they don't know the soul, they don't know what swing is. It's not. It's about a dirty. It's sitting in a dirty pub in South London, listening to it, and he was saying a terrible jazz band thing called the Sultans of Swing. It's just like, really, the Sultans of Swing?
That's what you think.
That's what you think. And I think it's eating.
So now, seemingly what happened is that they played it on radio. I think Paul Gambattini played it on Radio 1, and they jammed up North London with people trying to get to record shops to buy it.
Yeah.
Now, if you're talking influence, jamming up an entire city to get your song is up there. People couldn't. There were literally traffic jams of people trying to get
to it, because
and kids of the iPhone generation are never going to experience anything like that.
You never. I mean,
which is a shame in a way.
It is a shame. I mean, I remember when, the very, very quick aside was when Guns N' Roses released Illusion 1 and Illusion 2, and they hadn't released anything for 4 years, and it was just like there was queues in Guernsey. There was queues.
Oh wow!
From the bottom, for out of Woolworths up the high street, people waiting for this album to come out. And it was. Yeah, it's amazing, bonkers. But obviously, again, it's good. We're talking about Knopfler, and yes, and it was that. I remember like all of the two big concerts at that time that were on was obviously Live Aid.
Yeah,
and the Nelson Mandela birthday party thing, which I think is a couple of years apart. I'm pretty sure. I'd have to get the dates.
3 years apart, because Live Aid was 85.
85,
as my erstwhile younger brother commented that we got the date wrong for Mandela, it was 88.
It was 88, right? Okay. Now he appeared. They were at Live, and also Alchemy Live as well. I remember having Alchemy Live.
That was 84, and that's 84. Unbelievable.
And that's before Brothers in Arms. That was they already had.
Before,
They were. That was the Hammersmith Apollo, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I know of someone who went there, and apparently it was very loud. And I learnt that particular version of Sultans because, I learnt all of them. Yeah. I remember playing it, and I remember my brother bringing you to watch me play it.
I remember, absolutely.
And you both sat there going,
"Wow,
wow, that's bonkers."
Yeah,
and the stuff that he was doing was, he was absolutely on fire in that concert. The stuff he was doing on his Schecter.
Yeah, it was absolutely incredible. Absolutely, and it was, and that I mean, I didn't know who they were. I'd seen the picture of the album. I'd seen it at my parents' friends' houses.
Yeah,
but I'd never. Which is another thing that won't happen to people anymore. It will happen to come to my house. I've got albums over there.
Yeah.
But it was you get, oh, what's that? And I remember going around to, again, one of my dad's friends' houses who did have a CD player, and he had Brothers in Arms on CD.
Yeah.
And it was the days in Guernsey when people decided it was a good idea to put in jacuzzis, and obviously, there was some kind of 80s stuff, but the kids loved playing them as well. And I remember sitting in this jacuzzi. I'd have probably been about, how old would I have been in 1985? 9, listening to Brothers in Arms and just going, it's just life-changingly amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. And Mark has since gone on about, I read stuff that he'd said about it, and he was like, well, that was a bit all right, and that was a bit boring, and, that's an old story, and blah, blah. It was like, what? This was like the fastest, well, not the, I think it was until the Joshua Tree came out, I think it was the fastest selling album.
Yeah.
And literally everyone in the entire planet bought it.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing with it. It was that everyone had it. And I remember our mutual friend, Matthew Dobson, we mentioned last time about that it was a brilliant drummer. And he was very, very proud of the fact that he still had the original cassette that came. And I think it was pink on the front, or pink and blue on the album. And it was black, because then tapes went to clear. But the old tapes were black, and he kept it.
And he also had the original black box. Like Dobson, he was really, really funny about that sort of thing. Everything absolutely had to be
absolutely right. And that was the thing and that was when we were talking about the other week, like with sleeve notes. You'd get and just take this blue cover out, and the writing, the font was cool. And then you'd sort of read, and there would be like, oh, we thank Rudy's Music Stop in New York, and we're going to thank Dario's Strings, and we're going to, and you think, God, who are all these people?
Yeah. So you didn't have the internet, so you had to wait till Guitarist magazine came out and read it in Guitarist magazine to find out who these people were.
And who are these amazing people, and where is this? And then and then you find years later, you go to Rudy's Music Stop and have this thing, mate. Yeah. And it's such a surreal experience when you actually go there. And it's at the end of the day, it's a music shop.
Yeah, but it isn't.
It was a dream and a whole sort of basis of growing up.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I definitely think that I would say that Knopfler is there. And I think it's what is a crying shame is the number of people that don't know about them.
Yeah,
of younger people that are coming through, and it's really odd because they went through this stage of being so incredibly uncool, and I don't know why. There's a huge number of people, I'd say a couple of years older than us, who think the Dire Straits aren't cool, and I just don't get it. I was just like, have you not? Yeah, again, as with everything, when people say that it isn't cool, the general thing is they haven't listened to it.
Yeah,
and just like I know we haven't got time to do song by song on this one. I think we should do a whole song by song, maybe over 3 episodes, a song by song of Dire Straits' career.
We ought to do Brothers in Arms.
Yeah, well, the whole of Brothers in Arms, song by song.
Just do the whole Brothers in Arms, song by song, and try to.
I agree. I think yeah, even if it takes 2 episodes to do it, I think we should, because I think I mean,
Andertons did it with Reckless from Brian Adams.
Yeah, exactly. Which is nowhere near as near as good as Brothers in Arms, though.
Having said that, I love it. It was great, because I think that's where modern YouTube things like this are actually very powerful. Because I watched that because I like Andertons. I just loved it, and I was like, actually, do you know what? Brian Adams flaming rocks. And I went and one of my same student, we had a big Brian Adams fest, and I never thought that would be his thing either. But we had such a fun time playing it all and learning the tunes, and they're brilliant. Keith Scott, this guitar player, I think.
I know nothing about him apart from this hit.
I think it's Keith Scott. And his guitar playing is unbelievably good. I mean, the riffs he came up with, I mean, they were just, you could see like Lee was almost crying at one point, just going, oh, God, this is so good. And I totally get that. And I think we should do that not to just completely parrot what they did, but I think it's a really good idea.
I think it's a great idea. Well, let's
on
do
the back of this, because we thought we were going to be arguing about this, and actually
we're not really. We've come to the same conclusion. Yeah, I think it would be a really nice idea. So we just literally go song by song through that. So there you go. This is the whole. We're not supposed to be having brainstorm business meetings during podcasts, but yeah, I think that's a great. The next podcast, and I think it's a really good thing. An absolute in depth on Brothers in Arms, absolute in depth song by song.
Absolutely, and to avoid all the kind of the YouTube censors, I'll have it up on I'll just play it on the phone into the microphone.
Yeah, exactly. Or we just go, right, okay, this is the point where you stop and you listen to that track, and now we'll talk about it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Now,
and I think there we are.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the other thing is why worry? He hates it, doesn't he, Knopfler?
He does.
Calls it why bother when they play it live.
It's a shame because I love that song. Is a very good song. The reason why I didn't like it is that he was singing it too high. He's like, why worry now? Yeah. And he said you can hear me straining because he's got a deep voice even to sing.
Yeah.
But what I liked about that song was the end of it. It just it had such a wonderful, warm, summery 80s feeling about it. And I used to give it to my students as a little study, just to play that little. And it was so chilled out and wonderful. And I could have had that. That could have gone on for 10 minutes and I wouldn't have got bored with it.
You know, my biggest Mark Knopfler regret? Well, two big ones. Number one, I never saw Dire Straits, and I know you did. Number two, I really wish that he'd recorded Private Dancer. The guy wrote it.
He did.
It is a phenomenal song. Obviously, in Tina Turner's hands, it is a totally different connotation.
It is, yeah.
But I can't imagine how good. I think there is a version of it on YouTube somewhere, but I think it's really muffled and faded out. Mm. Imagine if Private Dancer by Dire Straits had been on Brothers in Arms as well. It was already one of the great. I really wish there was a really good recording. There may be. I may have missed it. Not because with his voice. So it's only, and it's one of. It's a bit like your latest trick, which obviously we're not going into our Brothers in Arms deep dive now. Okay, but
no, we're not.
The way that song comes in, what feels like almost halfway through a conversation and at the end of the evening. Mm. Is the same as Private Dancer. The sort of men that come to these places, and you've got that, and it's just like so much is instantly already assumed.
Yeah.
In both instances, it's just like it's just the scene isn't set.
No,
you have to work out the scene from having got to the end of the song and realizing what it's about, and then listening to it again.
Yeah,
and anyway, utter genius.
I heard the other day, and I haven't listened to it in. I don't know how long.
Yeah.
It's got to be 15 years at least. Was Private Investigations.
That's amazing. I listen to it all the time.
It's bonkers, actually.
The whole album. I've got to mess it up there. It's Love Over Gold, isn't it? It's on Love Over Gold. Am I right? So. Am I wrong? We should know this. We should know this.
We're badly prepared for this one, but
exactly.
I think it was.
Yeah. The whole of Love Over Gold is absolutely magic.
Yeah. And Romeo and Juliet was on that as well, I think.
Yes, I think it was on Making Movies. We needed to have done our research on the albums before we'd done this, but yeah.
Well, we didn't know we were going to choose.
No, we didn't know. Exactly. We didn't know we were going to go into this.
Badly. Well, it is 3 chords and some lies. So
exactly. So if they're not intentional lies. We don't quite know lies.
We just don't quite know. Yeah, we're not lying deliberately, but we are saying things because.
Yeah. Do you know what? Give me 0.2 of a second. No, I've switched that off. So I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to look. We'll talk about it at that another time. I'm not going to Google it. We'll
some enterprising young troll will probably tell us on YouTube.
Exactly. Yeah. So, that was a thoroughly enjoyable conversation.
What is wrong with us today? We're going to put our teeth in.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, we're both not that well. So look, I think that saying that Mark Knopfler and that Jimi Hendrix are two of the most influential guitarists and inspirational and best guitarists of all time is an absolutely fair comment.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would definitely agree.
Yeah,
everyone can have their own favourite guitar players, and Mark Knopfler was certainly my favourite growing up until I discovered the Power of the Edge.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he was just amazing. And when you actually start playing his stuff, it's weird as hell. Like the patterns and the shapes he makes are weird compared to some, but they all make sense once you've learnt them, and they're physically nice to play. Whereas some people, they're not physically nice to play. They're pretty just, oh god, that's awkward and why. But Mark Knopfler's, whatever it is, you'll play. What was the Ride Across the River? There's some wonderful licks in that.
Absolutely.
And just go, how the hell did you come up with this?
And that song is probably a bit of an afterthought. They already had the hits down. So that's a song where he's going to be literally just like, put that little bit in there, put that little bit in there. I might be wrong.
But it was brilliant.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
I absolutely, I think it was awesome. The whole album. Yeah, we're going to do it next time.
You're about to say, if this podcast has served nothing, it's given us the reason we know exactly what we're doing for our next podcast.
Absolutely, which is good. And then I reckon another idea is that we do albums for each other that we haven't listened to or we didn't like or whatever.
Yeah,
and do that. So you
absolutely. You need to show me. You need to show me some Jerry Rafferty. So absolutely.
Oh yes, okay, yeah.
Because we're open to ideas. What would you like us to talk nonsense about?
Yeah,
right in the comments. Album stuff, ideas of stuff that we can talk about. Just let us know. Anyway,
give us some stuff that we can cover, and we will talk complete cobblers about it. Are you not entertained?
Yeah, hopefully we will entertain you with it. So no,
and we'll entertain with it. And thanks for everybody for listening, whoever it is you are. We appreciate every minute you spend listening to us is very, very gratefully received. We're on Instagram, we're on Patreon. The links will be in the description.
Yep.
And
YouTube, because that's the one we want you all to watch on YouTube, because that's where we get the most traction. So we want that on YouTube and wherever you want to listen to it.
Our luxury yacht fund. So and we've earned precisely no pence.
Yeah, one day I may be able to afford a plectrum, but let's see. Anyway, look. We'll keep talking, and as I say, we've got some really exciting guests coming up soon as well. I've had a couple of people I've been talking to that are keen to have a chat with us.
Yes, we're busy in the background trying to get people in and trying to coordinate some people. We've got some big people coming, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want it, and also if you think that you might want to come and have a chat, you never know, it might work. Get in touch and we'll see if we want to have a chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got some opinions and ideas about guitars? Let's talk about them. Anyway, mate.
Absolutely.
You have a lovely Sunday and enjoy and everybody else enjoy the rest of your day.
Absolutely.
We've been three chords and some lies.
We have, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
And relax.
Yeah.